you should obsess less about gear, um, and obsess more about light. If we can use AI to help the humans do what humans like to do, then that's the appropriate use. You really shouldn't attach your self-worth to your work.
Welcome to Talent Freaks. I'm Andy, a filmmaker and photographer based in the Bay Area of California. Today's guest is Mark Richardson, a talented cinematographer, director of photography, editor, and photographer who's captured stunning visuals across multiple projects. He's also the creator of Vindexr, an innovative AI-powered tool that lets video editors search every clip instantly using natural language, slashing editing time dramatically. And if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. It helps this creative community grow and means I get to keep bringing you more stories from the front lines of innovation. Now, before we get in there, I also want to let you know that we will be doing a product demo with Mark about Vindexr. It is pretty awesome. All right, let's meet Mark. Welcome, Mark. I appreciate your time. And, also, we have a familiar friend in common with Luke Hale.
Yeah.
And so you came across my path when I did the podcast with Luke. And when you reached out, or we just connected on LinkedIn, I started following you. Then you put out a software, Vindexr, Vindexr.
Vindexer, yeah, either way.
And I was really impressed, and you let me take a beta view for about a week, and it was really impressive. You know, I just put in a few things for my podcast to kind of go through some stuff, and I was like, this is awesome. And of course, I dove into your software and saw all the benefits for it. And what I can't really use it for right now where I'm at in freelance. I just don't have enough, video footage to do that. But I know the last place I worked at, like corporate, it is perfect for something like that, especially when you work with a lot of teams. You're working on multiple projects and you're always looking for that B-roll from a project you did, like, even 3 or 4 years ago that you're like, I remember that shot. It'd be perfect right here. And your software helps solve that problem. So tell me a little bit about Vindexr and, first let's just talk about it. I'll go into the details about, where it came from and everything else, or I'll ask you those questions.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've been in video production for almost 20 years now, which is kind of crazy to say. I don't feel that old, but I guess that's where we're at now in life. But yeah, with that experience, I've been, in and out of corporate production and, client side and agency work, back and forth. And, you get kind of to the point where especially with video editing, always seems to kind of be the bottleneck. It's fun to shoot and quick to shoot, but, editing is we always tell people it takes, every minute of video, it's 4 minutes of editing time. And it's just kind of the time consuming part of it. And I don't know what your experience is like, but for me, you kind of see recurring themes or recurring projects. Like I feel like I've edited the same video again and again. They kind of follow patterns, and you try to bring your creativity to it, of course. But anyway, with that, there's definitely some friction that I was feeling with the editing process. Namely, there's kind of two main sticking points. One is just the process of finding, like you were talking about, locating the actual clips that you need. And that's kind of twofold. It's finding it. If it's from your archive, it can be difficult to find like which drive it's on or which folder it is in or which year it was taken, all that kind of thing. But then just the nature of a video, right? You have a file, and typically they're camera files that are named, like your camera prefix or whatever, and then a string of numbers, and that's not descriptive. So depending on
Wait a minute, you don't go in and individually label every video clip that you shoot?
I really should, right? But I don't know. I don't know if you're good at doing that, but
no, I'm horrible at doing that.
I'm pretty good at like putting it in a client folder, with maybe a shoot date or a project description, but even that, it's a process of digging through those files to try to find what you're looking
Yeah.
for, and then the file itself. So maybe you know where to look, but video is a linear recording, and if it's an hour long or longer recording, or even shorter stuff, finding inside that clip what you need can be a manual, time consuming process, right?
Yeah.
It's just difficult. So that's the first kind of friction point. The second is the it's kind of goes hand in hand, but you might be able to find a clip that you need, or a batch of clips that you need, but it's still a manual process to collect from that clip what you need, right? Again, it's a process of moving it onto the timeline and scrubbing that clip and listening again and again to find the piece, and then cutting it out manually. You got to use your blade tool and cut it out and move it to where you want it, and kind of keep that in your memory, in your short-term RAM to use it in a meaningful way, right? And so that's kind of what I was aiming to fix or solve with Vindexr. And I don't know if it makes sense to kind of jump into a screen share now and show you how that works.
Yeah, there's a few things I want you to kind of like touch base on. What are the main features that it does that helps you through this whole process?
Yeah, so um, you've probably heard of digital asset managers, or DAMs.
Hmm.
It's the approach is similar to that. You would import, footage. You could import as much or as little as you want at a time, and then upon import, it will take a look at that media. It'll analyze it and auto-transcribe any audio that's on the media, and then also run it through some machine learning models to analyze what's actually in the frames. So if there's a person or a dog or an object or trees or whatever it is, those things get tagged, so that that metadata is there and searchable. So it's auto logging for your footage.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's jump in there and
Okay.
and let's get our nitty gritty.
Yeah. So this is the main interface. It's pretty simple. We have a local archive here on the left sidebar, and you can create your own file structure here. You might organize it by clients, client folders, or however you'd like. And then with this import button, you can import media into these folders. I've got just some test material in here that you can see. But again, once you've imported a clip, here's maybe this will be a good demo. So inside here, I've imported a bunch of interviews. This is from my day job. And it's a bunch of engineers talking about the lean manufacturing principles that they use to have efficient workplaces at my place of employment. And so, not the most exciting stuff, but the idea is to cut this material down into a short, 3-minute internal video for sharing with the rest of the organization. And so you can see we've imported these interviews. Some of them are stand-up, some of them are sit-down interviews. They vary in length. And if we click on one of these, we can see in the right sidebar the
Ooh,
transcript that was auto-generated. If we play back that clip, I don't think the audio will pipe through, but you can.
that's okay. Yeah, I
But
could see it.
yeah, as he's talking there, we have a sync to the transcript, so we can easily see, what part of the transcript. And then, excuse me, this transcript is clickable. Again, linked to the video player. Searchable, so you can search,
Can
words
you
throughout.
also export the transcript
Yeah, I've got
separately as a
right. Yeah, text file. There's a little button here that will do that. You can export just as
nice?
a text file. So, it's a common, I guess, sequence of events when editing to go and find sound bites, and to, play material back and listen, and find the best parts to use in an edit. And so with this tool, you can kind of do an assembly edit really, really quickly. That way you can do it manually. I have a collection system, which is just a collection of sound bites. So you could go through here and set a in and out point as you're listening, to an interview,
S-
and then with the C key, just collect that segment to a collection, and that shows up here. And you can preview that collection. You can rearrange these, rough cuts however you'd like. And then once you've
So
created,
so wait a minute.
yeah, go ahead.
You're saying that you could actually like rough cut it inside there?
Yeah, it's just so just just by typing the in and out keys, I can
Oh wow.
create a selection. So here's a selection of video, right? In and out gives you the
Hmm.
time code. And then adding that to a collection. And that would be kind of like an assembly edit, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
a list of those. It's not necessarily a polished edit. It's just an assembly cut or a collection of parts that I collected.
That's so huge.
So if you hit the play button here, you can preview those and skip through them.
So I saw something you wrote on LinkedIn. You said I took, 6 interviews, and what normally would take me 4 days to put together a 5-minute piece, it's now taking me 4 hours.
Yeah, this is actually the project I was referencing. This is quite a bit of material here. Some of these interviews are pretty long, and I I don't know. I might have been exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, it's. I mean,
Sure.
it's it's just a time consuming process to go through this and weave
Yeah.
together a piece. You have all this material, and part of the friction is just having done it for almost 20 years, is just getting the motivation to want to do this again, right? Like, um, I don't have this. This is a job, and it's not. I'm passionate about video production, but I'm not necessarily passionate about these individual projects. I want to do, good work and make a good product for the business that I'm working for. But it's a motivational issue too, to want to go through interviews and manually find the most compelling parts. So I've kind of showed you the first part of this, uh, but the part that I'm most excited about is this other tab here, this Vindexr AI tab. This is using
Okay.
the Claude API. You're familiar with Claude? It's
Absolutely.
similar to ChatGPT, but with this, I can now expose Claude to all this material. So there's a scope button here. I'm going to change this to the current folder scope. So it's going to look at all the material that's in this one folder. I don't want it to scope my entire archive because I just want to work on this one project.
Okay.
But you can see that I can also choose, hey, I want Claude to look at the transcript or the visual tagging or both. For this, because it's interview driven, the transcript scope is going to be fine. And I've got a few presets here, find emotional reactions, select moments
Mm.
about deadlines, or create a highlight reel. But because it's Claude, you can prompt it to do whatever you want. So an example might be um, find all the best sound bites and arrange them in good story structure. Let's just try that. So this is not uploading the video content again to Claude,
Right.
which would be expensive and time consuming. It's just allowing Claude to see the metadata that Vindexer has gathered about all these clips, the transcript, and all the AI tagging that Vindexer has done locally. So
So
also
is
way
Vindexer also visually, in the video clip? So it scans the entire video clip and it gets all these tags based on the visuals that it sees.
yes, that's correct. So that's happening before
S-
Claude has access, if that makes sense. So it's not Claude
Right.
doing that scanning, right? So we
And
have a
and it even catches kind of like, I'm sorry to interrupt,
no,
but
you're good.
there are a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Um, but it does it also like catch fine details too. For instance, like you right here in this office room, like you're in a looks like a laboratory, or even I can't really see because it's really small on my screen.
Yeah.
But does it catch like little details like lights, chairs, blinking lights, those kind of things?
That's a good question. I think the answer would depend on the clip and kind of the context and the resolution. I do have things
Sure.
like optical character recognition. So like this danger sign, we can test that here in a second. But that
Okay.
should come up. You could search the word danger and that should come up. We'll try that. Um, so visual search and the transcription search, both useful. Both, you could see how that could be useful when you're trying to find clips. But
Because I'm in Silicon Valley, so I worked with a database AI company before. That was my previous employer, and I talked to a couple of places where I interviewed. One was called RoboFlow, where they took AI visually. You have to train it, so you just put boxes around things, and then it automatically just scans a room and picks up all the things. So I see how like that can incorporate in here and catch all the details and give it back, give that feedback. So that so many questions. How did you? And I guess I'll wait until you finish because this is fascinating to me.
yeah,
Like
for
I
sure.
absolutely love this idea.
Happy to share. We can follow this path and then continue with some of the other features. But
Hmm.
um, so we gave it the prompt, find all the best sound bites and arrange them in a good story structure. So Claude has come back. It's found 32 key moments, and it will show us those moments. We can scroll through them. It's probably pretty small on your screen, but there's the time code and then a little text summary of what it found. So this first one is the opening hook that it found, introduction to
Mm,
the 3S principles. And then we can just scroll through here. Maybe we'll scroll to the end and see what it found for a conclusion. Yeah, so it picked the manager's advice, efficiency gains that compound, starting with simple improvements. So that's a good little wrap up from Rich, who's a manager, and then gives you a summary of all the material that it looked at. And then I was talking about that pain point or that friction of the collection part of editing, and that's what this solves. So we have all those edit points now, and we can add that with one button to a collection. So over here in the collections tab, we have a new collection called Lean Principles Implementation Journey of Operational Excellence. So, so Claude's come up with that name based on the prompt and based on the material that it searched through. And now this is the collections view. And again, you can see all the collections that it found, a little text summary, and I can, again, it's kind of like an assembly edit, right?
oh
I could
wow,
play through
nice.
this and I can rearrange. One of the thoughts I had for this is, I work in an organization of, I think there's 6,000 employees, and so our department services the whole lab, and there's often times where I'm working with we call them customers, but just internal other groups internally that I'm producing video for. And they're not video editors. They're not, they don't
Yeah,
have DaVinci Resolve or Premiere on their computer, but oftentimes they'd like to be involved in some of this process and review the material. A lot of times you'll do an edit and someone will come back and say, hey, what else did the person say in the interview about X, Y, or Z? And that's again a manual process of, well, I can go look, or do you want me to send you the raw footage so you can listen?
yeah.
And so if this was available to your coworkers or other people at the organization, they could make their own collections. They could come in here and again use Claude to query the material and find the sound bites that maybe they're looking for, and arrange them however they like. And then if this is a synced database, I can then go in and find the collection that they've created. They can share that with me. And now I can send that to my video editing software. I've got two buttons here. I'll have to launch Resolve to show you this, but
Oh, cool.
um,
That's what I use. So is it like an XML that goes to Resolve?
with Resolve, there's
Or
it's a Python script that runs
oh,
that's
okay.
just sending metadata directly. I do have a XML and EDL export available as well. Uh, but let's see if we get Resolve open. We'll create a new test project here. So Resolve needs to be running, and then Just click this button, gives you a little summary. This is the collection it's going to send. There's 32 edit points. And I want it to create a timeline. You wouldn't have to, but if you leave that checked, they'll create a timeline. So we'll send that over. Gives you a little success message. And if we look at Resolve, it's created a bin. And the bin is named what the collection was named. And then here's all the media that's referenced in that collection
Oh
set.
man.
And then on the timeline, you can zoom out here. Here's my rough assembly edit. So all those edit points already collected, ready for me to now do the fun part of editing, which is, polishing after I've found the material.
Oh my gosh.
There's when I was working on this project, it's common to, when you're filming an interview, you have the person introduce themselves, name and title, and then that may not make it into the cut, right? You'll use that info to title them or put a lower third on. But again, if you don't know these folks, like I don't know these folks, I can't remember their name from the time when I recorded them. It's a manual process. I got to go back through those clips, find where they introduce themselves, record their name down so that I can make a lower third, right? Well, with Vindexr, I can now, let's just go back to this. Let's change this to the folder scope. I can just query that, find all the places where people introduce themselves. And it will go and find all that in the transcripts. I can create a new collection, bring that back into Resolve, and I have that information at my fingertips, right? So,
oh my gosh.
So here it is, 7 found. I don't think I had all those interviews introduce themselves. That's why there's only 7, but that's there it is. Casey White introduces himself as research and development technician. Anyway.
Did you get him to spell his name?
I should have. I don't know if I did, but I have a employee database. I can go double check that, but
sure. Yeah. Man, that's so impressive.
So that's kind of the path that is really saving me time is, with these interview type materials. But I can also show you the visual search, which I think is probably useful in a lot of cases too. I'm going to change the scope here to the top level. So I'm searching the entire database. And we'll just try a few queries. I have 2 search modes right now. Text just searches the transcript, and then visual mode is the visual search. So we'll search. Let's try that danger sign, see if that comes up. This is, I didn't catch that. It's always the risk of a live demo.
No, it's a sign. It's not like, but it was something really rare that I was kind of mentioning, but
I do know like 43 or 45. That's interesting. 40. Let's try.
Oh, you put 45 and it was like someone wearing a jersey?
Yeah, so he's wearing a jersey. That'll come up. We could try, I know I've got like some outdoor stuff. We could try shots of trees. That will come up. We went boating. We could type boat. I don't know. Feet. So, yeah.
Does it also understand like wide shot, close up, and medium shot? Or establishing shot?
I haven't really trained it on that kind of vernacular yet, but I can see that that's probably what I am doing. If there's camera data, so I have all the camera data. So you could bring that in and use that for semantic search with like wide shot, because it might know, what lens you're on, what millimeter of lens the frame was shot with. And then, I think there's probably a way to do that visually too. But
because I know Adobe, have you used it's similar to this, but nowhere even close to the kind of what you've created here. But it's within Adobe. I've yet to use it because I use Premiere, but I did go in and started researching. They only do it within your project. So whatever you incorporate into the project, then you could search visually,
right,
and also transcribe everything. But I think they have that in there, and I'm not saying like yours is less than, but I think it's a good tool to have, especially when you're looking for those like fine details. Yours to me is more important for me. Like if I was going to make a purchase, yeah, I would even purchase that and bring it into Adobe
Yeah.
to work with it rather than just rely on the stuff that they have.
Well, I think there's some different use cases too. I think Adobe and Resolve, they're probably, working very quickly to integrate as much AI as they
Yeah.
can, and some of these features I'm sure will show up in their software. I think the direction for Vindexer is more, um, I was talking about when you have a team that maybe they're not even video editors, right? And they want, I mean, I get requests almost daily from our social media team, and they use like CapCut and other uh, softwares. They're not professional video editors at all, and they don't really have access to my archive. And if they did, they don't. Again, it's a search problem, right? So
Yeah.
they're asking me every day, what do you have on this subject, or this, if you shot anything in this lab, or whatever it is. And so again, it's a manual process for me to go find that for them. But if this tool is available uh, in our in our organization, and they might be able to do that search themselves, even without having DaVinci Resolve or Premiere, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. And take me back just a little bit about like what is your background? Like how did you create this software? Are you a programmer as well, or is this something that you saw a need for and you're like, I'm just going to do it with all these AI tools? And take me through that process.
Yeah, my dad was a software engineer for his career, and so I have some history there, and some of that rubbed off. I've been kind of dabbled in it for a long time, even before this latest AI craze has happened. And I've never been too serious about it, but I know the basics, and know how to I know how to I know how to break things and get dangerous with it, I guess is the issue. And then with Claude Code and some of these tools that have come out, it's made it so much easier to reduce the friction to build a tool and to figure out how to do some of this stuff. So my background is all visual media. I went to school for advertising, was the major, and then some minors in graphic design and photography. But
Nice. Nice. And so I know this is me. As an editor, like I remember when I was young, I used to love editing because that was like your problem solving, finding,
yeah,
putting the puzzle together and finding these things. And now, as I'm a lot older, it's not exciting anymore. It's like kind of the reason why you built this. If I had the tool just to kind of have an assembly edit, that's where I'm like, yes, let's
yeah,
get going. It's already there.
and I still get excited about some parts of editing, right? Like
Hmm.
it's just the parts that Vindexer does that I don't care about, and that's kind of, yeah. I don't. I think AI. There's a lot of hand wringing and a lot of folks that are upset about it and that kind of thing. And um, I think that if we can use AI to help the humans do what humans like to do, then that's the appropriate use, right? And that's kind of what I
Yeah.
aim to do with this. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, I mean, it's like you just solved a major problem of, especially modern day, and actually probably the last 10, 15 years on, this, when you're working for a company, they ask you to do so much. You're not just the editor, you're also the producer, you're also the shooter, you're also director sometimes, and even set designer, lighting, all those things. And when you go into the editing process, it's a quick turnaround and you don't
yeah,
have time to really get involved and make it as dynamic as you really want to. So
yeah,
it's kind of like you piece it together, you put it together, looks good, sounds good, good. Let's move on to the next one. What you just did right there is like now you can go in and do some more sound effects. You could do some more visual effects, like really take care. Go in and do some really like deep color correcting or color, not even color correcting, just, coloring,
yeah,
to make it more dynamic.
yeah. More of the creative process of it, right? Instead of
Yeah.
just the finding and selecting. And the scrubbing.
And so how do you also use outside of Vindexer, how do you use AI to help you produce, location scout? What are other some ways you look at AI to help you as a, cinematographer, DP, director?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a great starting point for scripting or outlining. Um, there's definitely some tells when you've read enough AI stuff that this is AI generated, right? So I think
Yeah.
you got to be careful to use it as a starting point and truly bring the human part back into it, right? Rewrite it in your own words or whatever you need to do to make it so it's not just a production by Claude or ChatGPT, right? But
Right.
I currently work at the Idaho National Lab, and it's kind of a unique environment because it's a Department of Energy run lab, and I had never worked in government before. I've been in startups or agencies or small businesses up until about 4 years ago when I joined the lab. And there are some unique restrictions, I guess, in place to that environment. One of them being that we have to be careful how we use the AI tools and what material we're
Mm.
uploading or sharing with the tool, because everything that we uh, produce or release has to be approved through a pretty stringent approval process. And so just recently they've given us access to some of the tools, ChatGPT and Claude, but I think it's kind of a enterprise type level, and it's just kind of interesting the pathway to get there. And so the whole lab is kind of adapting to that and learning how to use it. And anyway, I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of went on a tangent there, but we're still figuring that
No,
out.
man, it's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned that because it kind of triggered me going like, I can't imagine what kind of security that you have to go through. I mean, in corporate, when you're working, with hard drives, like you have to get clearance just to plug in a USB into your,
yeah,
computer.
yep,
And to share files is a nightmare. You have to go through all this paperwork. You can't use any kind of like dongles or anything like that because of, phishing. So it's I can't imagine the security process that you guys go through,
yeah,
especially as a video person where you need to share files, you need to share information.
yeah. It's very similar to that. There, maybe times three or four. There's
Yeah.
physical security as well as the uh, IT security. So yeah,
So when I was going through some of your stuff, there was so I use AI to research, and sometimes it's a hit or miss.
yeah,
But it did bring up something I thought was really cool, and I forget where I saw this, but this was something that you said. If I could tell people one thing about my work, it would be that I'm nothing special. My work is nothing special. Anyone could do this as a profession. Anyone can acquire the skills necessary to make images like I do. It requires work. It requires a true passion. It requires blood, sweat, and tears. People see amazing locations, beautiful images. They don't see thousands of dollars invested in equipment, the thousands of failed attempts, the early mornings and late nights, the physical, mental, and emotional toll a creative field exacts. They don't see the insanity of hours, weeks, months that are sometimes invested in getting just one shot. Now, could you? I mean, I understand that completely when I read that, but I think a lot of people outside of our profession don't really truly understand that. But I love how you started that off. Is like it is nothing special. It takes passion. It takes hours. It takes failed attempts. I've done all those things, especially a lot of failed attempts. But talk to me about like where's that come from? And I've looked at your demo reel, the work on your website. Beautiful cinematography. I loved, especially the outdoor stuff. The older I get, the more attracted I am to nature, and especially outdoors. And you use a red camera, correct?
yeah. Mhm.
So it looks absolutely gorgeous. But tell me about your mindset about being, a DP cinematographer.
Yeah, I had forgotten I'd written that, but that sounds like me. Um, no, yeah, I mean, I I think people, we've had this social media ride, over the years with Instagram and everything, and you sort of ingest that stuff, and at least for me, it's you start out and you feel like you're not there yet, you haven't arrived yet, and you look at some of this material that's published, and you have this feeling of inadequacy, I think, and uh, I guess longing to be able to be at that place where you're creating work that you're proud of or that other people are admiring. And yeah, I mean, it's just it's not really special in that anyone can do it if you are willing to put in the reps to get to that place. And it's for a long time for me, it was about the gear, right? Like I think we all kind of
Mhm.
fall into that trap a little bit of, oh, if I could only be shooting on the red cameras or the RAs, then that's when I'll have made it. That's when people will respect the work or respect the images, or I'll be famous, right? And that's just not the case. If you have money, anyone could buy a red camera. It doesn't mean that the images coming out of it will be have any kind of meaning, right? But
Yeah,
um, yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know where I go from there, but it's just a process, and I think I've done a lot of kind of self-reflecting the past few years, and kind of come to the place where um, you don't you really shouldn't attach your self-worth to your work. Uh, uh, Maybe I can elaborate. It's I guess for the longest time, that's where I felt like I got self-esteem or self-worth is maybe the word,
oh yeah.
is by, you post something or publish something, and you feed off the dopamine hit from people reacting to that. And I still enjoy that, but in the past few years, I've kind of been able to detach myself from that, and maybe embrace the satisfaction of not posting or producing work that's just for you. And it's still fun to share stuff. Don't get me wrong. I still thrive off of that part of it. But um, anyway, that's just some of the thoughts I've had in the past few years. And if you can remove that part of it, then I think it's a healthier place to be. You can kind of enjoy the work more. And yeah,
Absolutely. And something you said that I feel the same, and I'm in a weird place because I feel like most of my career I didn't I wouldn't say recognition, but I don't have the same connections as a lot of people who would at my age. So I feel like I have to share. I have to do more social media just to get my name out there and to get people to, it's not necessarily like, but to get in front of people that I haven't, before.
yeah,
And like you have a good connection, a good crowd that you're a part of. And that's something in my career that I just missed out on. And I don't know how it happened or so. And probably a lot of it had to do with me moving across the country and moving different places. Started in Greensboro, then moved to Charleston. Now I'm in California.
yeah,
And every place had had a great filmmaking community in Greensboro, a wonderful artistic community in Charleston. And then out here, it's all corporate in Silicon Valley, and it's nothing. There's no, the creatives here are all professionals, and we don't get together to share ideas, to do projects, personal projects. Everything is more about like, oh, what are you working on? How much? Because it's hard to live in this area.
yeah. That does
So
sound difficult.
I'm at that place right now where like if I go shoot something, I put it up there just to try to connect with other professionals in my area. And I do this podcast too to connect with people like you, like Luke,
Yeah,
and others that we could just like I enjoy sharing ideas, but I also love learning, and that's something that I missed, especially being in a corporate environment where I'm the only video guy.
yeah.
I
It can be
love working with designers. but
cold
it's
and
not the
lonely
same as
sometimes.
working with a team. Oh yeah, and I'm sure like you working, and it's nothing wrong with the places that we work at. It's just where it is. There's
Yeah.
just not that community. So but
But
one of the things I like to go ahead.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say I've enjoyed your two latest posts on YouTube, the Sierras. I was just watching that before. What beautiful work. That was awesome to see that.
Thank you.
Is it
Well,
looked like it was anamorphic. Were you on?
yeah, a friend of mine had he had Lazar Remus
Yeah.
lenses that he lent me, and to match everything, I just cropped in for the DJI Pocket 3, which held up pretty well.
Yeah.
I have a hard
Surprising.
time coloring with that, but I think that camera is just absolutely amazing for what it does.
Yeah. We use that too. It's a great little camera.
So you do a lot of drone work, and that was something that when I dove into your Instagram, like the drone work that you do is pretty unique and beautiful. Like you did, I never saw this before, but the one where it's kind of going in a clock, going from one scene to the other, like day and night or back and
Yeah.
forth, time
Um,
lapse.
yeah, that's some that's actually another software project that was kind of an art software project that I've been working on. It's called Time Slice. I don't have it published yet, but I'm working on getting that put in the App Store. But yeah, it just takes a batch of time lapse photos. It works really nicely if it's like a day to night or night to day transition. And then what it does is it slices across those frames. It's kind of hard to describe. Slices across those frames a narrow piece of that frame, and then animates the time lapse or the passage of time across that slice. So you can get some really interesting effects, like the clock that you were talking about. Maybe we can insert a B-roll of that for your audience. But yeah, that's kind of a fun little piece. I can send you a copy of that software if you're interested in messing around with time lapses. But
Yeah, well, I love time lapses. When I moved to California, that's when I got into nature because I was never exposed to an area like this. And I know Idaho, like I'd never really looked at Idaho, and I had a friend in Greensboro who was from there, and he kept going like, "You gotta check out Idaho. It's amazing." And I
try
was
to
like,
keep it a
"Idaho, yeah,
secret.
all right." Yeah, and I know like Idaho's like California's like, "No, no, don't come up here. Like, go back to
We're
Cali."
we put on a strong face, but we're pretty friendly. If you want to move up, we'll take you. But
It's like one more destination. Sure. I'm looking at places like right now going like, what's my last destination? I can't keep doing this. I can't keep starting over. It's so difficult.
yeah.
Um, but you tell me about your drone. Are you using DJI products or are you using one where you attach your camera to?
No, DJI for the longest time. But when I got into the drone stuff, it was right before DJI had launched their kind of their what they're known for, their Phantom
Hmm.
drone, which made it really easy to put a GoPro on the bottom of it. And but right before that, I was getting into it, and I tried to scratch build a drone that would carry a DSLR, and that was a very difficult process. I have some experience in just hobby RC, but that's what guys were doing was building these scratch built multi rotors, and they were using DJI started. They did have some uh, like hobby level GPS and flight controller modules that you could buy. But yeah, this thing was like a flying lawnmower. It was a pretty good footprint, and I mean, it would take your head off if you got too close to it. And like, I never got confident enough with it to strap my DSLR to the bottom of it. Um,
That's scary.
yeah, but then yeah, they came out with the Phantom, and that changed everything. You could put a GoPro on there, and then they had a gimbal module that was kind of revolutionary, and you could put your GoPro on the gimbal and attach that to the Phantom. And then the Mavic series has just been incredible. The
Yeah.
it's kind of unfortunate that with the recent ban, the DJI or I guess it's all foreign made drones that they've kind of banned. I'm not sure exactly what the current situation is, but I know it's very difficult to get anything. Um,
Yeah.
so we'll
And
see
I
where that goes. But
purchased one last year, and
yeah,
it's like, oh damn. Does that just mean no more firmware? I know you could still buy the ones in the in the store, but what does that mean in the future? Obviously, if they're just going to stop.
yeah, I don't know. I guess it's everything that's been approved currently you can still buy, but they're not importing new models, so that's problematic. I have kind of it's a little bit older Mavic, and the batteries are starting to wear out,
Oh
and
yeah.
I can't get new batteries for it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to figure out the path forward. Maybe find one that's still available and upgrade. But yeah, interesting
One
times.
of the hardest things that I find with DJI and other products like that is, they're kind of time stamped, meaning like if you bought an older DJI, like in 5 years, that app is not going to work on your phone anymore,
Mm.
your iPad, they're not going to have support and you can't fly it anymore unless you go back to the old app
Yeah,
and use that. It's just really bizarre. And like I had that with a couple of sliders and I was just like, wait a minute, I can't use this anymore because you guys have progressed. Like just keep that app, like, archive it so I can still use it.
yeah.
Um,
Everything becomes
I
obsolete.
find that frustrating. Oh, so I want to share my screen real quick. So when you were talking about all the cameras that, are being used, these are the cameras that made it to Sundance this year.
Oh yeah.
And it's amazing, like FX6. But look at this, a Sony A7 models, five of
Oh
them
wow. Yep.
made it to like the Sundance. Um,
iPhone. Yep.
yeah, iPhone 3.
FX9. Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
and for me, it just kind of confirms that it's more about, the story and, how to use it rather than, the gear and everything else. Of course, when you have gear, it helps to, because some of the things that I made mistakes early in my career, I shot a documentary from in college that was on an SVHS. That's all they had.
Yep.
So I shot it and I had no training and I was learning while I was doing it. I look at it, it's cringe worthy. It's just like I had a indoor light right beside a window coming in. The person was on the wrong side of the frame looking at the frame. So it was just like everything I could do wrong, I did wrong. When I had a huge interview in a prison, they didn't have a mic, so I had to use the onboard mic, and it
Oh
just sounded like the everything was echoing, bouncing off the walls. But it pulled together into a really good documentary. But nobody would touch it because they were like, "Oh, we can't use this. This is like," I was like, "Ah."
yeah. So
So
gear
lessons learned.
helps. Gear helps, but it's. I guess the point I was trying to make is once you achieve the gear, you're still left with your same problems, right? Like
Yeah.
if you haven't grown as a filmmaker and you don't have a good story, then you're just the camera just sits there. It's a red camera, great, but I have nothing to point it at that's interesting. So it's
I do have to preface that was before the digital revolution. Like
yeah.
that was Final Cut Pro wasn't even out before this. I did this documentary, so it was kind of like I had no other options unless I used a beta cam, you know, um, or film. And I was a student at a small school, so that wasn't going to happen. So I look at today and I'm like, yeah, you don't need the top of the line gear. Almost every camera is amazing,
Mhm.
as far as what they do.
Do you remember there was a narrow point in time when depth of field adapters were a thing?
Yeah. I also, what was that thing where we put it? It was on a Sony camera. We put it on, and it was like this.
Yeah, it would spin.
It was it would spin to make it look like film, like grain.
Yeah, it'd be. Well, I think what they were doing is it was like so you'd mount a photography lens to it, and that image would be basically projected on a like a screen inside that. It's like a disc inside that adapter, and then the old video camera would have to be able to zoom in and record from that screen. And so they'd spin the disc because there was a grain pattern visible,
Yeah.
and the spinning would help reduce the grain pattern. But yeah, funny.
Yeah, we used that on a couple of films back in the day. So yeah, it's amazing where technology goes, and I think there's so many wonderful tools out there. I do want to touch on this. I love this what you said. You use the phrase that you create work that feels like art, looks like wealth, and tells truth beautifully. So could you unpack those words?
Oh man, I guess that kind of speaks to the aesthetic that I enjoy, which is just trying
Mm,
to elevate work. I, I think I wrote that at a time when, so I, before I was at the lab, I was at an agency. It's a small agency here in Idaho Falls that was started, maybe 8 years ago or 10 years now. I was employee number two, and
wow.
um, Idaho Falls is a difficult place to start like any kind of creative endeavor, and especially an agency. And but it seemed to be the right time, the right place, in the right time because local businesses were like, I feel like Idaho Falls was always about 10 years behind everybody else, but they were finally starting to
Mm,
like see the value in production and in video. And I mean, everybody nationwide was already doing it and using video and Facebook marketing and social media marketing. And so we got some good traction pretty quickly, and we're able to scale that agency. I think now it's probably close to 20 employees, probably 13 or so when I left. Uh, but that was kind of I guess, the driving um, theme behind the agency was how do we elevate Idaho Falls and some of these small businesses to look like they're world class or can compete on the at least in the regional scale. And I think that's kind of where that mantra came from is can we shoot something for the local dentist or the local uh, s- you know sports store that looks like it could be something more than just what typically was coming out of Idaho Falls, if that makes sense. So, looks like wealth, but doesn't necessarily have to cost a fortune to produce it. And the owner of the agency, his name's Tyler, invested in Scarlett early on,
mm.
and that really helped like elevate what we were doing. And I think again, we go back to talking about gear and how it doesn't matter, but there was definitely a like a psychological effect on the crew. Oh, we're shooting with red, so let's like really take time and try to elevate this work, and that led to getting bigger and better clients and having quite a bit of success with our agency. So hopefully that
Well,
explains kind of that mantra. But
y- yeah, absolutely. And going through your demo reel, like on your website, um, and I know you hand select, the pieces on there, but all of them had just really heart touching storytelling that was attached to it. So, like for instance, that Keller Williams piece, like I had no idea that that was going to be a Keller Williams. Like by
oh
the end, it was so heartwarming. And even the trucking industry and just all of them had this just a beautiful approach to it and how to tell stories where it was a lot of emotional storytelling and the why of they what they do
yeah,
and it was beautifully shot too, so it helps to have all those come together. So I think what you're mentioning about your area and doing certain things, like, yeah, it puts you up there with almost anyone. So that takes into the next question is like being in Idaho Falls. How did you how did you get noticed as far as like international projects or other projects that took you out of there, freelancing or otherwise?
it's a good question. When I think back to some of the work, the client work definitely gets noticed, especially in our local community because people will see those ads because they're being promoted locally to
Mm.
try to drive business for these local businesses, and that would lead to more work locally and sometimes regionally. The projects that really I think helped um, on a larger scale were the more personal projects or self-funded projects. There was, I don't know if you remember this, it was right before the pandemic. There was this kid that he put up a Facebook, what do you call that? An event. And it
Mm.
was just supposed to be a joke, but he put out that we're going to go raid Area 51 as a, as a Facebook event invite. And the thing
I
went
remember
viral.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It went viral, and it was, it was in all the news, and the group just kept getting millions and millions of people saying that they were going. And so we're kind of watching this and thinking, I think somebody said, "Oh, we should go down there and film that." It's kind of a passing joke, um, to Tyler's credit, the owner of the agency, he's like, "Actually, yeah, we probably should do that." and it,
Nice.
and yeah, we took it seriously and put together a plan, and um, rented an RV and went down to Nevada and found the little town of Rachel, Nevada, which is right there, right outside the gates of Area 51, and kind of followed the story of what transpired. And what transpired was not very interesting. I mean, if you watch the little short doc that we built, it's entertaining, but obviously nobody was able to storm Area 51, and fortunately they handled it in a way where nobody got hurt either. And I think there was only a
Hmm.
couple of arrests, but for us it was a chance to do something way outside our comfort zone and way outside what we would normally do. And we're taking red cameras down to the desert and following a bunch of interesting folks as they kind of formed this encampment out in the middle of nowhere in Rachel, Nevada. So um, that project, I think, led to other work, and it helps people to see, what's possible. And oh, if these guys are willing to do that and go do, try to tell a crazy story, then what can they do for my business? Like it's just, uh, I think it helps connect people when they see that you're doing interesting and fun things and uh, being a real human. So
And that was a passion project. That was just something you guys invested your own time and energy into, correct?
yeah,
As a company?
yeah, yeah. Tyler had the foresight to just allow us to do that, and it definitely helped. You know, just as an employee, it's awesome to be able to go be involved with something
Yeah.
like that isn't just the standard, uh, dentist promo video or whatever it is. So
So what you shared with me that that Buffalo, is that jerky? That the
yeah,
company?
that was another one. Bison Boys is what was
Bison Boys, yes.
the name of it, and they're a local bison ranchers. They're authentic, like it's two brothers that are uh, I think they're in their late 30s now, but their family has a long history in this area of ranching and being involved with bison herds of all things. And so they have a large facility where they produce jerky, not just bison jerky, but beef jerky and all sorts of other meats. And that was another project that was somewhat of a passion project, convincing them to try to do a kind of a docu series or a mini series that we published on YouTube that followed those two brothers. But a chance to be out there with the in the wild with the wild bison, and yeah, that's pretty intense.
So they did they approach you or did you guys approach them for that?
Uh, well, Tyler had a connection with them, and
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly how that came to be, but it was worked out that we would provide some of the production and there was some payment involved, but I'm not sure of the
Okay.
details. Yeah.
No, 'cause, the reason why I ask is it's beautiful, and it's you guys did a bunch of episodes where it looks like you spent a lot of time with them to
Yeah,
pull
and
that
that's what I
off.
mean. It being partially a passion project where it probably wouldn't be financially feasible for them to pay for the amount of time that we spent. but uh, but they definitely so they launched the Bison jerky, the Bison Boys jerky brand with the launch of the series, and that helped to promote the product on Amazon and through their website. Uh,
What are some of your favorite projects to work on? Like, what is your idea? Like, someone came to you and said, like, we want you to do this. You're like, oh,
that was one of them for sure. Just being able to be outside with a camera, that's I think a lot of people's dream, to to be out there doing that kind of thing. And but those are pretty rare. That type of project I think is pretty rare. So I I think these days it's any time that you can connect a human story to a project,
hmm,
and that can happen in various ways. At the lab, there's a lot of interesting research that's going on, and we're kind of having a nuclear renaissance.
hmm.
We're considered the nation's nuclear laboratory, and we have a long history of building reactors, and there are now some new reactors that are being developed or are funded through INL, and so it's kind of an interesting time to be on the frontier of that and seeing some brand new technology being developed and deployed here in Idaho once again. So uh, trying to bring in the human element to that, though, of
Yeah,
there's a researcher that's living here in Idaho Falls, and hopefully is helping to usher in a new era where energy is more available and cheaper. So
that's I know. With science, and I mean, even the last job I was at, we wanted to do kind of like human interest stories with developers, coders.
yeah,
They're not the most open people
yeah,
as far as getting in front of a camera, and so when you, at least for me, I find it easier because I try to relate to who they are. Um, but with researchers, I know there's a lot of like kind of, I guess what I'm trying to get out of my head. It's funny, I'm process while I'm thinking
yeah.
about this.
It's hard.
Um, yeah. So how do you get them to like open up and be more human rather than kind of statistics, or
Oh
it's
man,
this or that?
I wish I knew the answer to that. That's something I deal with on a daily basis. Yeah, it's just about trying to connect with people first, and the camera can have a very negative impact. You bring out a camera and people. I mean, I experience it. I have a really hard time being on camera. Uh, Even being on this podcast is a stretch for me, but hopefully somebody's getting something out of it. Um, and yeah, researchers are no exception. It can be difficult, but uh, it's the standard stuff when it comes to interviewing somebody, trying to make them feel comfortable, and uh, usually that's through conversation as you're starting the process, and uh, telling jokes or whatever it is. Most of my jokes don't land with researchers. They're way too smart for
I mean,
for
dad
any.
jokes are like universal though, so it's like
Yeah,
even if you get one, someone like, oh, it's so corny.
yeah, but yeah, that's a challenge. It's definitely a
Yeah.
challenge, but
So if you had to describe your ideal collaboration with a director or editor, what does that relationship look like?
yeah. I I have to say I don't think I've had a ton of opportunity to have um like very deep collaborations.
Hmm.
Just in my career, most of the time it's pretty solo. I mean, at the agency we were definitely working together,
Yeah.
but not really with. It would be often that you would go out and be the director and the photographer and the editor yourself, and then you'd in the pre-production and post-production stages, you might collaborate and refine those products. And definitely now, I mean, we have just three on our team. One is a full-time photographer, and then two of us that are hybrid. And we typically see a project through all the stages ourselves individually. Um, so that's a little bit hard for me to answer. I mean, I'd love to work with a bigger team with directors and collaborate that way, but I just haven't really had that experience. So
Cool. But so I noticed on your website you're a photographer as well as a videographer. What came first, the photography or the videography?
yeah, that's chicken before the egg. I have early memories of, uh, Dad always had a film camera around,
Mm.
a 35 millimeter Nikon. I think I still have it. And so he shot a ton of color slide film. And I don't know if you remember the carousel projectors.
Oh,
Uh,
that was every trip we went on. That we would sit in the room and with a projector with those. Yeah, so I'm
yeah.
very familiar.
Okay. Yeah. So he would do that all the time. He'd load those slides in, and we'd get to view them on the pop up screen that he'd pop up, and so I've always had kind of a interest in that. My grandfather also was pretty big into photography. Um, the disposable cameras, that was a huge thing in our house. You'd always have one of those kicking around and shoot the roll and then take it to Walmart or wherever and have it developed. Usually have to send it away and come back a week to pick it up or whatever. But and then video was pretty early too. Through high school, I had a group of friends that we were always making short films or messing around with the little Sony Handycam or we had a high eight, I think it was a high eight format for a while,
Oh
and
wow.
uh, then I graduated high school in 2002, and mini DV was pretty big there. Towards the end of high school, we were filming on that, and I can't remember the edit software, but you'd have to capture real time, um, play the tape and record with a
Were you
capture
using
card.
Final Cut Pro?
I'm trying to remember now. It would have been on a PC, so I don't think
Oh,
it was
okay.
Final Cut. Well, we had Final Cut at
Vegas.
school. It might have been Vegas we had at home. And then we did get, I think there was an early version of Premiere that came out right along
Yeah.
sometime in there too, but it's hard to remember the tools. Yeah, so, and been interested in video ever since then, and dabbled in it since then. We came through the DSLR revolution with the 5D Mark II, and before that, I think I mentioned trying to do the depth of field adapters and all that kind of stuff to try to make it more cinematic, shallower depth
Yeah.
of field, and then yeah, here we are now. So shooting
It's
stuff on
amazing.
iPhone that's way better, but
It's crazy. The one of the thing that I've seen is a lot of photographers have an easier transition to becoming videographers than the opposite, because I'm the opposite. I'm a videographer looking for story, looking for um, you know, scenes, how to explain. And now that I picked up a camera, started looking through the lens as a photographer, I find it's easier now to tell the story about little things here and there. But I see things kind of like bigger picture, let the scene tell you what's happening. But I know in order to become better filmmakers, you need those little minute details that tell the scene that you might not see in the big picture.
yeah, that makes sense. I I really love photography too. It's I I went through this period where I think it was from the agency. Agencies are just difficult if you're in that grind. It can be a real grind, and you kind of, if you're doing it for work, you start to get into the habit of not doing it personally, or for yourself.
Oh, I see.
I
Yeah.
burned. I think I burned out pretty hard, and then with being at the lab, it's a much different pace, and I've had the space to kind of fall back in love with it, and yeah, like like you're saying, finding
That's
those small
nice.
moments to capture either with video or photography has been fun.
So let's go through some like quick lightning round.
Okay.
Some of the fun questions. Like so, a favorite lens you actually own versus the one you daydream about.
My go-to is probably the 70D 200 Canon. Um, yeah, I prefer um, a compressed view or a longer shots than wider.
Well, why is it?
I think it's just easier to isolate, a detail or a subject. Uh, maybe it's a lazy way to look at it, a cheat, but it's just kind of what I'm drawn to. I like detail. I like to see things big and up close, and yeah,
So if you're sitting down for an interview, let's say you need to do a medium shot and you have like a 70-200, would you just like go far, far away just and then zoom in to get like some really good
yeah,
depth of
exactly.
field, all that stuff? Okay,
Yeah, I,
cool.
I shoot interviews on 7200 all the time. That way, just back up as far as you can and try to compress it.
That's really cool. I like that idea. What about a lens that you daydream about? Is there anything out there? Talk about gear.
Oh, I yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I'd like to get into some of the even longer telephoto stuff. Um, and I don't know, I don't really have a specific lens in my cart or anything, but some of those longer, like up to 600 or 700, or uh, mostly because I've seen some of the nature stuff that some of the guys around here
Oh,
are doing, and I think that would be fun to get into. I haven't up until this point. I haven't really had the patience for some of the wildlife stuff, but I think maybe I'm maturing, and I could see myself trying to capture some birds or elk or whatever it is. We have Yellowstone National Park is just a couple hours from us, and it'd be fun to take a long lens out and go spend some time and try to see what you can capture. But,
that would be amazing. So, what is a shot that you missed that still haunts you?
oh, there's a lot of those. Ooh, one is I can't remember what year this was. We had the total solar eclipse. Uh, I think that was right before the pandemic. The pandemic throws off time. I have no idea.
It was
Uh,
so there was one in 20, I think 17 or 18, early 18,
I think it
or
was 18.
uh, yeah,
So Idaho Falls was right in the path of totality, and there was a lot of hype, and a lot of folks weren't sure, like, are we going to be inundated by everybody coming to Idaho Falls to view it? And ended up not being that bad, but I kind of just, I don't know what it was. I kind of brushed it off and didn't really think to capture it. And I don't know. I'm kind of mixed feelings about it because I did experience it without like the distraction of cameras or worrying about trying to capture that, and it was life changing. I don't know if you've experienced totality with an
yeah. I was
eclipse,
in
but
Charleston, South Carolina, and it
okay,
it happened. We had totality there, and so explain what it was to you, and I'll tell you what it was for me.
yeah, it just we man, try to put this into words now, but seeing that happen made it real that we are like on this rock and the sun is like, you know it's real. I mean, you feel the temperature change instantly, and
Hmm.
just the weirdest light ever when totality happens for those moments. And yeah, I don't know how to really put it into words other than your our existence on this crazy rock that's just in space. Like, I don't know. It's mind blowing, and I think everyone should experience it. But
I agree, and the one thing that really caught my attention was when we went into totality, all the night insects started making noise.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And then it just stopped as soon as the sunlight came back out. It was just the most, for me, that's what those senses, because I didn't have a camera set up or anything else. And I happened to be in the right spot at the right time. So we had it was like cloudy everywhere, but this one island, as soon as the totality stopped, the clouds came over and covered the sky. And I was like, oh, like it was so close, but it was amazing. It was like you said. And since then, and I wasn't doing it before it, but after that, I started doing a lot more astrophotography. So I got really in touch with what you're describing about just feeling small. When
Yeah.
you take a picture of the night sky, just one little section, and see how many stars just pop up, and also the Milky Way and all those things, it's just like like we're so fortunate to be on this planet
Yeah.
and everything that we have. It still blows your mind when, and not taking pot or anything else, you could think about this sober, and it is incredible. Like everything that we need to survive is here, and we still treat it like garbage. It's just blows me away how we don't have that quick, like, just mind to be grateful for what we do have here. And it can end. We have no control of it, like how it ends. Like that's the other thing. Asteroid comes, we can't do anything about that.
Well, and I like what you said. We still treat it like garbage, but we treat each other like garbage too. And
Yeah.
it's like I I kind of experienced this when I was traveling for a previous job quite a bit and being able to see other cultures, and everybody is just on the same rock,
Hmm.
trying to survive, trying to make it, trying to have a happy life. Like why it seems so nonsensical that we have conflict and wars and the suffering that happens. But yeah, the eclipse was amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. There's just a few more I want to kind of get through, and
Sure.
we'll wrap it up. Uh, so, what's what's one piece of gear that you had a bigger impact on your work than you expected?
Mm, it's a good one. It's I think the easiest answer there would be the drones. That's I mean
Mm,
everybody's benefited from that technology, and that's been incredible to get that kind of perspective without a helicopter, without big budgets. You know, that's been game changing. That's I'll have to think more on that. That's a good one.
no, I think you're right about that. I mean, yeah, we couldn't get those amazing shots, without a helicopter, and now it's just takes it for granted. Like we just
Yeah.
fly our drones. It's crazy. So, what do you wish younger DPs would obsess about less, and what do you wish they obsessed about more?
I think I would say you should obsess. Well, this is obvious, but you should obsess less about gear, um, and obsess more about light. If you
Mm,
can learn to see light and learn how to shape light and use light to your advantage, that's more important than any piece of gear. So
100% agree. And last is horror stories with equipment. How often do you accidentally hit record and then stop when you wanted to hit record? And how do you overcome that mistake?
uh I'm I haven't I mean I'm pretty good now. I think you over time you do make mistakes and you learn from those pretty significantly. Like it only takes once to screw up a recording with like a CEO or something and have to redo
Oh,
that and the embarrassment of that, and then you learn to prep, adequately so that you don't have those mess ups. I One talking about mistakes with gear, and one that comes to mind was it wasn't a mistake that I made. It was a new hire. We just hired somebody at the agency, really talented guy, and I love him to this day. But we were out on a shoot, and we were setting up a Dana dolly with the red. I think we just bought a new red. It wasn't the Scarlet. It was the one after the Scarlet. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, he was setting that up on the Dana dolly, and something happened, and that whole platform came off the Dana dolly with the red camera attached
Oh,
and landed on concrete.
oh,
And I'll never forget the sound that made. The clattering. And yeah, it was an intense moment. The owner, our boss was right there, and just the looks and exchanges, and it's super awkward because the client's right there too, watching how we're gonna handle this. And um, luckily, like, those things are tanks, and there was no
oh my
damage. We
gosh,
didn't
that's amazing.
we didn't hit the lens. It happened to hit, I think on a piece of rigging or something. It took the main impact and that kind of bent, but it was fine, and we were able to continue with the shoot. So, but man, yeah, I'll never forget that. It's
So it's funny. I thought about this and I was like, I can't remember. Not like because I'm perfect, but I can't. My memory's terrible. I did, and it happens too often when I hit record and then stop and then hit record, and I'm like, ugh. Um, but the last time I went out for that trip in the Sierras, I rented a Sony 24 to 70 G Master 2, and it came with I think a UV, to protect the lens. Then I bought uh, an ND filter, and when I put it on there, I put it on too tight. And the problem was, since it was on top of a UV filter, I could not get I couldn't get either one off. And so I
yeah,
was just like, well, I can't send this back like this. I need to take it off. And and so I was just like, okay, I'll get a wrench and I'll put it around it and then just that thing just as soon as I tighten just a little bit, it's like, "Grr." And then
gosh,
I'm like,
yeah,
oh gosh. And then the lens cracked and then everything. I was like, not the lens like the
the
Sony,
filter,
but
yeah,
the filter. And it's just a little expense, but it's one of those things where I was like, I don't want to spend any more money,
yeah,
you know? And lesson learned, don't tight. Like I have also just like for some reason, I always tighten everything. And anyone who works with me is like, oh, it's Andy grip tight. Like, Andy, you have to take it off.
wrenched it down. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
But
I I seem to remember having to like take a hacksaw to a filter once to try to get it off a lens. Yeah, I've done that. So,
yes, those filters, man, they're
yeah,
tricky.
yep.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time. This was awesome. And one of the things I like to do is promote you for whatever that you're working on. Obviously,
Yeah.
um, Vindexer, sorry.
No, you're good.
uh, and anything else you'd like to promote, where can people find you, your work, but also where they can get Vindexer and anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like the community. I really appreciate you reaching out and getting to know you a little bit, and hopefully we can continue chatting and have a good relationship that way. And if people want to chat about filmmaking or whatever it is, I'd love to connect as well. You can find me
Hmm.
on LinkedIn easily. My website is just markrichardson.tv. Um, and yeah, I other than Vindexer, I built Vindexer for me. If nobody else uses it, I'm actually okay with that. It's saving me a bunch of time, and I really enjoy, uh, not having to do some of the manual part of editing. But by all means, if it sounds like a tool that would help your workflow, reach out, and I'll be happy to let you try it out for free and see if it will work for what you're doing. So that's yeah, that's the promo.
Nice. And one thing about I forgot to ask about that was the tokens that come with it, per month. So let's say as a freelancer, it's 2 million tokens. Now, how much does that help me, or what's the limit? Like, is it,
Yeah,
50?
that's a good question. So Vindexer, most of the processing happens locally. It doesn't cost you any
Mm-hmm.
tokens. It's just the Claude integration. So if you're querying, across your database, that spends tokens. If you click into, I think it's the license section, or the AI integration section, there's a settings thing, and you can see the expenditure of tokens over as you use it. 2 million tokens is quite a bit because you're not using Claude to like analyze an entire video. You're just using it to look at the metadata that Vindexer's already created. So the usage, I think, is actually pretty substantial. Like I think you'd be able to use it quite a bit for that freelancer tier. And again, I just want people to use it and benefit from it. If you're using it and you run out of usage and need more usage, then just reach out and let me know, and I can make adjustments. So,
I mean, I think this is something that what if someone came to you, let's say DaVinci, it was just like, yo, we're missing this in our portfolio. We don't have the time to spend on that. We'd like to purchase this from you. Are
yeah,
you okay with that?
I'd have to look at the deal and see, what.
Well, sure.
But I do really appreciate the direction that Black Magic Design seems to take with things. I think they're a good company for the community. I like their pricing models with their software, and their hardware is always really solid. And so, yeah, I'd be interested in entertaining whatever that would be. But
It's interesting. So I've been using DaVinci for the last 3 years, and recently working with a client and jumped back into Adobe, and I realized like how sloppy their UI is.
yeah,
Like it's just night and day. And you kind of think about it, like DaVinci, those are filmmakers. They use their products, they make products, and they understand the thinking of a filmmaker
yeah,
or someone using it. And you look at Adobe and it just feels like software where they're just like hiding features where you don't know where to find them. The structure, like I said, is very ugly. Like
yeah,
it's just not the same kind of thing. Now, Adobe has some amazing features in there. So it's a powerful platform, but I prefer just DaVinci because it's so much easier to use for me. It's fun for some reason,
yeah.
and it's behind a little bit because Adobe has a ton of money to spend and do some really unique and cool things. So again, this is kind of what you're talking about, gear. I think any editing system is fantastic. Now that we have all these online places like CapCut and all these other things where you could do amazing edits, and AI is getting involved in the game too, I tend to like having my hands on things, editing like for the final piece.
Yeah. I feel very much the same. So,
Well, cool. And yes, I'm always open, and I love collaborating and even just talking films. Like if you ever go out someplace, and I'm not going to say I have all the answers or anything, but just even to bounce ideas and even explore new things, I love talking about that stuff. So happy to make that connection and definitely keep it open door.
I definitely will. I really appreciate you doing this. So,
Thank you, Mark, for taking the time to join me on the show and share your insights on building Vindexr to revolutionize video search and editing workflows. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell. And share it with your friends to help more creative minds discover these stories. Your support truly makes a difference. And be sure to check out Mark's cinematography and Vindexr at markrichardsondp.com and vindexr.com. And follow him on social media where his profiles and latest updates live. All the links and info will be in the description for easy access. And if you want to know more of my work, you know where to go. Visit talentfreaks.com, where you can explore some of my video work as well as my current passion for photography. And if you have ideas or guests that you'd like to see on the show, don't hesitate to reach out. I love bringing fresh perspectives to the podcast. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and stay curious.